If you had to pick just one century that really created the world we live in right now, all of it, the good, the bad, the totally chaotic, it's got to be the 19th century. We're talking about 100 years of just explosive change, a time of revolution, wild invention, and a total transformation that basically set the stage for everything.
Think about it. The nations we live in, the technology we can't live without, even the art we look at. So much of it was forged in this one period. So how did this single century lay the groundwork for our entire modern life? Well, to figure that out, we have to look at the massive revolutions that defined it.
All of a sudden, the world just got a whole lot smaller and faster. The arrival of the railway, like this very first one in Germany back in 1835, wasn't just about changing how we travel. Nope, it completely redrew the map of trade, industry, and how we connect with each other.
And then, bam, distance itself started to feel, almost meaningless. With the invention of the telephone, a human voice could suddenly zip across continents in an instant. That's an idea that would have sounded like pure science fiction just a few years before.
And it wasn't just about practical stuff either. Technology started to reshape our culture itself. With the cinematography, we figured out how to capture motion, how to tell stories with light and shadow, and right there, in that moment, the entire world of mass entertainment was born.
So here's our game plan for this explainer. After a quick look at why this is called the century of everything, we're going to dive into the 3 huge revolutions that built our world. First up, from Napoleon to nations, we'll see how the political map got completely redrawn. Then, in the world remade by machine, we'll tackle that incredible tech boom. And finally, with art finds a new soul, we'll see how culture rebelled and reacted to all this change. All leading up to our big finish, how this crazy century literally invented our modern world.
All right, first up, politics. At the dawn of the 19th century, the old world of kings and ancient empires was basically shattered, and something new, something really powerful, was about to rise from the ashes, the nation-state.
The century really kicks off with the final, epic defeat of Napoleon. His conquests had torn a path right across Europe, and when he fell in 1815, it left this huge power vacuum. The old monarchies, they tried to put everything back the way it was, but Napoleon had let a genie out of the bottle that nobody could put back: nationalism.
And you can really see that struggle play out over the decades on this timeline. You've got the Congress of Vienna in 1815 trying to slam the brakes and restore the old order, but these new movements for national unity like the Württemberg Festival in Germany just kept bubbling to the surface. It all comes to a head in 1848 with this massive wave of revolutions, the Spring of Nations, which eventually leads to the creation of powerful new countries.
This slide just captures the core conflict of the time perfectly. On the left, you've got all the passion of the Württemberg Festival, students and thinkers dreaming of a unified, liberal Germany. Then on the right, you see the state's reaction in this incredible caricature called the Thinkers Club from 1819. The government's response? Forcing intellectuals to literally wear muzzles. It was a brutal battle between the people wanting a voice and the state demanding their silence.
And this is where it all ends up. Not with a liberal republic, but with an empire forged by what they called blood and iron. Here in 1871, in the famous Hall of Mirrors at Versailles, the German Empire is proclaimed. And right there at the center, the man in white is Chancellor Bismarck, looking on. This wasn't just a new country on the map. It was a whole new model of a powerful, industrialized, military First Nation state that would go on to define world politics for the next 100 years.
Okay, let's pivot to our second revolution, the one that was really powering all the others: technology. The sheer pace of invention in the 19th century was just breathtaking, and it completely, fundamentally changed every single aspect of human life. Just look at this timeline. It all kicks off in 1769 with the steam engine, which is basically the beating heart of the Industrial Revolution. A little over 60 years later, you get the first railway, changing travel forever. By 1862, we have the telephone, and by 1895, the first public film screening. The time between world-changing inventions was shrinking at this just dizzying pace.
And this painting, wow, it just brilliantly illustrates the new world that technology built. This isn't a painting of a king or some glorious battle. It's a factory. Menzel's iron rolling mill shows us the raw heat, the sweat, the immense, almost scary power of industry. The machine itself had become a subject worthy of great art.
But all that progress came at a really steep price.
Yeah, for every factory owner getting rich, there were thousands and thousands of people fueling those machines. This illustration from mid-century London shows us the rise of a brand new social class, the urban proletariat, the working class. They were living in these crowded, incredibly difficult conditions, and their struggles would spark new political ideas, like communism, that would go on to define the conflicts of the next century.
So, in a world being so violently reshaped by politics and machines, what in the world happened to art? Well, it went looking for a new soul. Artists started to turn their backs on the old, stuffy rules and began to look inward, trying to make some sense of all the chaos. Take a close look at this painting by the German Romantic artist Caspar David Friedrich. See that tiny, solitary figure? It's a monk, just completely dwarfed by this vast, empty sea and sky. This is the heart and soul of Romanticism, focusing on individual emotion, the overwhelming power of nature, and this deep sense of spiritual searching in a world that felt more and more mechanical and godless.
But here's the twist. Get this. What looks like pure, raw emotion is actually built on a foundation of cold, hard math. The whole composition of Mach by the Sea is structured around a perfect parabola, a type of conic section. It's this fascinating paradox, right? You have the ultimate romantic painter using the language of science to create a feeling of profound spiritual emptiness.
And as the century rolled on, that turn inward only got more intense. By the time we get to Van Gogh's The Starry Night in 1889, the goal isn't to paint what the world looks like anymore. It's to paint what it feels like. That swirling sky, the blazing stars, the cypress tree that looks like a flame. This is pure emotion, painted with color and form. The artist's inner world had become the main event. You know, those famous lyrics from Don McLean's song Vincent just capture the spirit of these artists so perfectly. They were trying to say something new, something vital about what it meant to be human in this crazy, changing world, and they were really struggling to be understood.
So what do you get when you smash together a political revolution, a technological revolution, and an artistic revolution all in one century? You get us. You get the modern world.
So when you boil it all down, the legacy of this century is really about three huge transformations. In politics, the old map of empires gives way to the powerful nation-states that we all live in today. In industry, the power of steam and steel created this whole new world of factories and cities, and with it, new social classes. And in art, that turn inward gave us a completely new emotional language to try and describe this modern experience.
Which leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? All these forces that were unleashed in the 19th century are absolutely still with us today. Nationalism, industrial society, mass media, that constant tension between individual feelings and technological progress. The question for us now is, after more than a century of living with these inventions, have we finally learned to control them? Or are they still controlling us?